September 14, 2024, 03:18 hours. Rostov-on-Don Petroleum Storage Complex, Rostov Oblast, Russia. Strategic reserve facility holding 900,000 cubic meters of refined petroleum products. Value of stored fuel, $16 billion. Annual throughput. Critical supply source for Russian military operations across southern front. In 47 minutes, Ukrainian long-range drone strike transforms this into largest petroleum fire in European history. Strategic impact. Russia loses 15% of refined fuel reserves supporting war effort. This is Military Front, where we analyze the strikes that cripple logistics networks and paralyze military machines. Rostov Petroleum Facility represents irreplaceable strategic asset. Unlike crude oil storage easily replaced from domestic production, refined petroleum products, diesel fuel, aviation kerosene, gasoline, require complex processing infrastructure operating continuously. This facility supplied approximately 38% of fuel consumed by Russian forces in Ukraine. Military convoys, tanks, aircraft, generators, all dependent on steady petroleum flow from Rostov. Destroy this facility. Russian military logistics face immediate crisis impossible to resolve quickly. Ukrainian military intelligence identified this target 9 months earlier. Satellite reconnaissance documented facility layout. Signal intelligence tracked fuel shipment schedules. Human intelligence sources within Russian logistics network confirmed military dependence on facility output. Western technical experts evaluated structural vulnerabilities. NATO strategic planners assessed potential strike impact on Russian operational capability. The target folder grew thicker monthly, waiting for optimal strike window. The operation codename, Vognyana Gora, Fire Mountain. Attack package, 31 long-range attack drones. Ukrainian manufactured modified designs based on Western technology transfer. Range, 1,200 kilometers. Payload per drone, 80 kilograms thermite-enhanced incendiary compound specifically formulated for petroleum fires. Total strike cost, approximately $2.1 million. Target value, $16 billion. Cost exchange ratio, 7,600 to 1. Which factor contributed most to catastrophic damage? A. Drone accuracy. Target vulnerability. Thermite warheads. Your analysis and comments. Rostov facility layout presented ideal target for incendiary attack. 37 massive storage tanks arranged in rows. Each tank holds approximately 24,000 cubic meters of refined petroleum. Tanks connected by pressurized pipeline network, distributing fuel to loading stations. Fire suppression systems designed for small-scale incidents. Foam generators. Sprinkler networks. Emergency isolation valves. Adequate for minor fires. Completely inadequate for multiple simultaneous petroleum conflagrations across massive facility. Russian security measures included perimeter fencing, guard posts, surveillance cameras, anti-drone detection systems, but the facility never designed to resist military attack. Located 600 kilometers from Ukrainian border. Russian planners assumed this represented safe rear area. Strategic depth provided security. Ukrainian long-range strike capability proved this assumption catastrophically wrong. Stay with me? The next 42 minutes demonstrate how strategic depth has collapsed in modern warfare, why petroleum logistics determine operational tempo, and how Ukrainian innovation created weapons-threatening targets throughout Russian territory. September 14th. Drone launch sequence began 01:37 hours. 31 aircraft departing from 5 dispersed locations across Ukraine. Staggered timing ensures simultaneous arrival despite different distances. Multiple flight paths prevent pattern recognition, enabling Russian air defense prediction. Electronic warfare support, creating radar interference zones. reconnaissance drones, providing real-time defensive system monitoring, decoy drones, saturating detection networks. Each attack drone programmed with specific target tank coordinates, autonomous navigation through GPS waypoints, terrain following flight profile, maintaining extremely low altitude. Speed, 180 kilometers per hour, slow enough for fuel efficiency, fast enough to minimize Russian interception window. The drones effectively invisible to Russian radar until final approach due to small size, low altitude, composite materials reducing radar signature. Western satellite intelligence provided crucial support. U.S. National Reconnaissance Office satellites tracked Russian air defense deployments around Rostov, identified coverage gaps, revealed optimal approach vectors. Real-time data transmitted to Ukrainian command enabling final route adjustments. British signals intelligence monitored Russian defensive communications, detecting shift changes and alert status reductions during early morning hours. NATO technical liaison officers reviewed strike planning, suggesting modifications to maximize facility damage through sequential tank ignition, creating fire cascades. This represented fully integrated Western Ukrainian operation. American intelligence, British technical support, Ukrainian execution. The line between defensive assistance and offensive collaboration completely blurred. 03-1104. First drone detected by Russian coastal defense radar station 270 kilometers from target. Alert transmitted to Regional Air Defense Command. Pantsir S-1 system activated, but the drone already passed maximum intercept range before defensive response organized. Russian air defense designed for fast fighter jets and cruise missiles. Slow-flying small drones exploit capability gaps. How many storage tanks ultimately engulfed in flames? A. 12B, 23C, 31. Stay tuned for answer. 03-14-22. 3 additional drones detected approaching from different vectors. Russian air defense attempts coordination between multiple systems. Confusion regarding threat priority. Limited ammunition stocks force selective engagement decisions. 2 drones intercepted successfully. 1 continues toward target. Meanwhile, 27 attack drones approach completely undetected below radar horizon. 03-1807. Main attack wave arrives. 11 drones simultaneously strike petroleum storage tanks in northern section. Precision navigation places each drone within 3 meters of programmed impact point. Tank upper surfaces near pipe connections. Warheads detonate on impact. Thermite-enhanced incendiary compound ignites instantly. Temperature exceeds 2,400 degrees Celsius. The thermite burns through steel tank walls like paper. Molten metal drips into petroleum product below. Tank number 12 contains diesel fuel, 24,000 cubic meters. Flashpoint, 52 degrees Celsius. Thermite easily exceeds ignition temperature. The fuel ignites explosively. Fireball erupts 300 meters high, visible from space. Heat radiation so intense paint on adjacent tanks ignites spontaneously 100 meters away. Tank number 15 contains aviation kerosene, highly volatile. The thermite penetration triggers immediate deflagration. Not quite detonation, but extreme rapid combustion. Pressure wave shatters tank structure. Burning kerosene sprays across surrounding area. Ignites 3 adjacent storage tanks within seconds. Chain reaction begins. This is military front, where strategic strikes achieve effects that tactical battlefield victories cannot replicate. Russian emergency response mobilizes immediately. Fire brigades from 6 municipalities converge on facility. 37 fire trucks, 800 emergency personnel. Foam suppression systems activate automatically. The response proves completely inadequate. Petroleum fires burn at temperatures exceeding foam effectiveness. Water application worsens situation. Burning fuel floats on water, spreading flames further. Fire suppression equipment designed for small-scale industrial accidents cannot handle 11 simultaneous major petroleum fires. Better facility design: underground storage or distributed smaller facilities? Comment U for underground or D for distributed. 03-1933. Second wave of 9 drones strikes Western tank section. Similar effects. Thermite penetrations. Immediate ignition. Multiple petroleum tanks burning simultaneously. Fire spreads through interconnected pipeline network. Fuel flowing under pressure through pipes becomes river of flame, distributing fire across entire facility. Emergency isolation valves should prevent pipeline fire spread. Operators attempt manual valve closure, but intense heat makes approach impossible. Automated systems malfunction due to electrical short circuits from fire damage. The pipeline network transforms from fuel distribution system into fire distribution system. Flames reach loading stations. Fuel trucks explode. Railway tanker cars rupture. Burning petroleum floods across facility grounds. 03-2141. Third wave of 11 drones targets southern storage section and administrative facilities. 3 drones strike office buildings housing control systems. Fire spreads to electrical substations. Power loss across facility. Lighting fails. Communications disrupted. Pump systems cease operation. Remaining functional fire suppression systems lose power. The facility defense collapses completely. 8 drones strike remaining tank farms. More ignitions. More fires. Within 18 minutes of first strike, 23 of 37 storage tanks burning out of control. Remaining 14 tanks at extreme risk from heat radiation. Fire suppression crews retreat to safe distance. Nothing they can do? They watch helplessly as $16 billion of strategic petroleum reserves burn. If you believe logistics warfare achieves strategic paralysis more effectively than frontline combat, type military front in the comments. Fire intensity increases exponentially as flames feed on unlimited fuel supply. Satellite thermal imaging shows temperature hotspots exceeding 1,500 degrees Celsius across 2 square kilometers. Heat radiation ignites vegetation 1 kilometer away. Smoke plume rises 12,000 meters into atmosphere visible across 300-kilometer radius. International Space Station astronauts photograph fire from orbit. Environmental impact. Burning petroleum releases toxic compounds, benzene, toluene, xylene, into atmosphere. Ash and unburned hydrocarbons rain across Rostov-on-Don population center. Air quality reaches hazardous levels. Authorities issue evacuation orders for residential areas downwind. Approximately 47,000 civilians displaced temporarily. Ecological damage assessment ongoing. Soil contamination. Water pollution. Long-term health effects unknown. But environmental consequences pale compared to strategic military impact. Russian forces immediately face fuel shortage. Priority allocation system implemented. Military operations receive remaining supply. Civilian population faces rationing. Economic activity disrupted. The petroleum fire doesn't just destroy stored fuel. It reveals fundamental vulnerability in Russian logistics architecture. What would NATO logistics doctrine recommend for fuel security? Comment your strategic analysis and tag someone studying military logistics. Russian casualty figures: 17 emergency response personnel killed attempting firefighting operations, 43 injured from burns, smoke inhalation, and explosion trauma. Facility workers: 8 killed in initial strikes, 19 injured. Civilian casualties from evacuation and air quality complications. 3 deaths confirmed from respiratory failure in elderly population. Ukrainian intelligence estimates total casualties approximately 60 killed or injured across all categories. The human cost remains secondary to strategic effect. Russian military logistics depend on steady, refined petroleum flow. Rostov facility supplied approximately 450,000 cubic meters of fuel monthly to military forces. Loss eliminates this supply immediately. Alternative sources exist but operate at maximum capacity already. No surge capability. Russian forces must reduce consumption or face operational paralysis. Impact timeline. Within 48 hours, Russian military reduces vehicle movement rates by estimated 32% across southern operational sectors. Tank battalions restrict training exercises. Mechanized infantry limits patrol operations. Artillery transport reduces ammunition resupply frequency. Generators operate on reduced schedules. Air operations curtailed to priority missions only. The fuel shortage ripples through entire military machine. Within 1 week, Russian command implements emergency petroleum import agreements, increased purchases from Iran, Venezuela, China, higher prices due to emergency demand, transportation delays as tanker ships reroute, quality concerns as some imported fuel fails to meet Russian military specifications, equipment maintenance issues from inferior petroleum products. The logistics crisis compounds daily. Within 1 month, Russian operational tempo decreased measurably. Ukrainian intelligence documents 43% reduction in Russian artillery fire rates, 61% reduction in mechanized patrol operations, 37% reduction in helicopter flight hours. The petroleum shortage constrains every aspect of Russian military activity. Strategic paralysis achieved through logistics destruction. This is military front. Because understanding modern warfare requires recognizing that fuel shortages defeat armies more efficiently than frontline combat. Economic impact extends beyond military sphere. Rostov facility supplied civilian markets with gasoline and diesel. Loss creates immediate shortages across southern Russia. Fuel prices spike 47% within 2 weeks. Rationing implemented. Long lines at gas stations. Black market fuel trade emerges. Economic disruption amplifies public discontent. Government approval ratings decline. Domestic pressure builds. International petroleum markets react. Russian export capacity reduced by facility loss. Global supply concerns drive price increases. European nations previously dependent on Russian fuel accelerate diversification efforts. Alternative suppliers benefit. Russian market share erodes permanently. The strike's economic effects cascade globally. Ukrainian domestic production of long-range strike drones expanded dramatically following successful petroleum facility attack. Pre-strike production, estimated 30 drones monthly. Post-strike production, Ukrainian defense sources claim 120 drones monthly. Investment in domestic manufacturing increased. Western component supplies expanded. Technology transfer accelerated. Ukraine builds indigenous deep strike capability threatening entire Russian rear area. Western military analysts studied operation intensively. Key findings. 1. Strategic logistics nodes represent vulnerable single-point failures. Concentrated petroleum storage creates attractive targets. 2. Long-range strike capabilities allow smaller nations to attack opponents' strategic depth. Geographic distance no longer provides security. 3. Incendiary weapons optimized for petroleum targets create disproportionate damage. Thermite compounds specifically selected for maximum effect against fuel storage. 4. Fire suppression systems designed for peacetime industrial accidents cannot handle deliberate military attack with multiple ignition points. 5. Environmental and civilian impact considerations diminish when attacking aggressor nations' war-supporting infrastructure. International humanitarian law permits strikes against legitimate military objectives even when civilian disruption results. 6. Logistics warfare. Achieving strategic effects requires significantly fewer resources than battlefield combat. $2 million drone strike creates $16 billion loss, plus operational paralysis, worth incalculable strategic value. NATO Strategic Petroleum Reserve Protection Protocols revised following detailed analysis. New emphasis on distributed storage. Hardened facilities. Enhanced air defense specifically designed for drone threats. Underground construction. Redundant suppression systems. The lessons from Rostov influenced infrastructure protection planning across alliance. 3 months after strike, satellite imagery assessment shows limited reconstruction progress. Fire damage so extensive that tank replacement requires complete facility rebuild. Russian authorities estimate reconstruction timeline 36 to 48 months. Estimated cost $800 million. But money and time cannot restore strategic reserve instantly. Russian military continues operating under fuel constraints. The operational impact extends far beyond initial strike. Quiz answer B. 23 storage tanks completely destroyed by fire. An additional 8 tanks suffered severe damage requiring demolition and replacement. 6 tanks survived with repairable damage. Total facility capacity destroyed, approximately 67%. Remaining operational capacity, 33% inadequate to meet pre-strike demand levels. Facility effectively eliminated as strategic petroleum reserve for duration of conflict. 3 critical questions. Was Ukraine justified targeting petroleum infrastructure, causing significant civilian economic disruption? International humanitarian law permits attacking legitimate military objectives. Rostov facility supplied Russian military forces directly. Dual-use infrastructure supporting war effort constitutes valid target. Civilian impact, while significant, remains proportional to military advantage gained. Alternative perspective, attacks causing major civilian hardship potentially violate proportionality principle. Environmental damage affects populations for decades. Debate continues regarding appropriate targeting restraint even against aggressor nations. Could Russian defensive measures have prevented this strike through different infrastructure protection or air defense deployment? Distributed storage across multiple smaller facilities complicates targeting and reduces single strike effectiveness. Underground petroleum storage eliminates vulnerability to surface attacks. Enhanced air defense specifically designed for slow-moving drone threats could increase interception rates. But fundamental problem remains. Russia cannot defend everything everywhere simultaneously. Ukrainian strike capability forces Russian resource allocation dilemmas with no perfect solutions. What would you prioritize if redesigning petroleum storage security? Physical hardening through underground construction, distribution across many small facilities, enhanced air defense networks, rapid repair capabilities accepting some strike damage but enabling fast reconstitution? Each approach involves different costs and operational trade-offs. Comment your strategic infrastructure security analysis. Subscribe to Military Front, because analyzing logistics warfare reveals how fuel shortages paralyze military machines more effectively than destroying combat vehicles, and why modern deep strike capabilities make strategic depth irrelevant when attackers possess precision weapons. Rostov Petroleum facility site remains damaged months later. Burned-out tank structures still visible in satellite imagery. Reconstruction efforts progressing slowly. Security enhanced, but vulnerabilities remain. The destroyed facility serves multiple purposes now. Memorial to petroleum warfare. Warning about infrastructure vulnerability. Evidence that modern conflict extends far beyond traditional battlefields. Reminder that logistics networks determine operational capability more than weapon stockpiles. The fire extinguished weeks after initial strike. Fuel supplies exhausted. Nothing left to burn. Smoke cleared. Cleanup began. But strategic effects continue. Russian military operates under persistent fuel constraints. Alternative supply sources strained. Operational tempo reduced. The destruction achieved by 31 drones carrying 80 kilograms of incendiary compound exceeded effects from 1,000 artillery strikes against frontline positions. Stay vigilant. In modern warfare, strategic paralysis flows from logistics destruction more than battlefield victory.